Hey, welcome back, folks, to another edition of NFL Draft Insiders. I am your host, Oren Cheery, joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Gartman and Trent Davis. How you guys doing today?
Doing good, Oren. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Well, it's already been an exciting week leading up to the draft. We are now only a day and 2 weeks away from the draft. It's about 15 days. Join us, and we even have a nice, great special guest joining us today in our show, one of the top defensive tackles in this year's draft class, Aaron Donald from Pittsburgh. How do you think about that? That's going to be great. We have lots to get to today, folks. Schedule announced just now tonight, and we're going to go over a few of the games, maybe the first of the first week, maybe the top games of the whole schedule. Go through that a little bit, announce some of those along the way. We're going to talk, as always, about the NFL draft, of course, and what's leading up, what our teams. We're going to pick 3 or 4 teams and go through them, what their team's needs are after the free agency period, who they might want to choose in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And then we'll go over right now, what are the top 10 draft picks, and maybe we'll go through a couple of news stories right now, and maybe we'll go through a couple of news stories surrounding the NFL prospects themselves and the draft itself. Let me go to Trent right now. What reports around the league have come out this week in regards to? We heard about a couple of trades, actually, that happened. Can you tell me?
Well, the biggest trade, I guess, that happened this week was Terrell Pryor getting traded from the Oakland Raiders to the Seattle Seahawks for a 7th-round draft pick. That was, in my opinion, the biggest trade that happened this week. And a lot of people are debating whether or not it's going to help the Seahawks. Maybe, probably not. They already have Tavares Jackson and B.J. Daniels currently right now backing up Russell Wilson. Tavares Jackson is currently the actual backup, and then B.J. Daniels runs the scout team. So come training camp, Terrell Pryor will have a chance to compete. But I don't see him winning the job from Tavares Jackson, maybe from B.J. Daniels, and then they cut B.J. Daniels, and Terrell Pryor runs the scout team. But as far as it having a big impact, I don't think it's going to.
Well, could a different coaching standpoint coming from Pete Carroll, he transitioned Russell Wilson as a starting quarterback leading to a Super Bowl. Can Terrell Pryor become something that he wasn't with the Raiders? Is that possible?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A better coaching staff, better team environment. Not saying that the Raiders have a bad team environment or a bad coaching staff, but sometimes players just need a new environment, and they'll thrive. And so that could absolutely be the case with Terrell Pryor in Seattle.
Yeah, certainly. Well, how do you think it worked out as far as for the Raiders, getting a 7th rounder for him? Hey, they at least got to trade him. They get an extra pick. Yes, they lost a 6th rounder, but getting a 7th rounder between a 6th rounder is not the biggest thing and the biggest difference. And then now the Raiders do have 3 7th rounders, giving them an extra pick, for example. So who really wins in this deal? Is there a winner out of this deal?
I would say that right now it's the Raiders, just because they got something for Terrell Pryor, whereas I didn't think they were going to get anything for Terrell Pryor, seeing as how he's been asked for a trade and teams know he wanted to get traded. So I thought he was just going to end up getting released. And the fact that the Seahawks even gave them a 7th-round pick, I thought was pretty cool of them to do. But if Terrell Pryor turns out to be something more than just a backup in the long run and ends up winning the game, or is a splash player like, he plays wide receiver and maybe even running back, or then the Seahawks could totally be the victors. But as of right now, I think the Oakland Raiders came out on top on this one.
Yeah, let me ask you. There's another story coming out of Oakland, actually. Not just today, actually. I was reading. Lamar Woodley free agent, signed with the Raiders, veteran, 7 years in the league, produced relatively well with the Pittsburgh Steelers, comes in to the Oakland, and today he goes on and says the Raiders can compete, are playoff caliber team. Are they really a playoff caliber team? Now that they signed all these veteran free agents?
The Raiders, are the Raiders a playoff caliber team?
Yes.
Man, they play in a pretty tough division. Obviously, they play in the division of the AFC champion Denver Broncos. And the AFC champion Denver Broncos, also improved their team, taking up DeMarcus Ware and Aqib Talib, arguably their two biggest signings. And then the Chargers, played better last year, and I think are on the rise. The Raiders but as far as the Raiders go, they could absolutely be a playoff team. They did pick up some marquee free agents as well. Maurice Jones-Drew, Terrell Brown. They re-signed Charles Woodson. They got Carlos Rogers. They re-signed Darren McFadden.
Don't forget Justin Tuck, too.
Justin Tuck, Donald Penn. I mean, James Jones, for that matter. Obviously, and they traded for Matt Schwab, also one of the bigger names. They could absolutely be a contender this year. I definitely see them making waves as far as the NFL goes and that division goes. They could definitely make the playoffs. I don't think they'll be winning that division. If they do, they'll be going in the playoffs as a wild card. But, I think it's totally possible.
Hey, Mike, we were talking about, what do you think about what Woodley said today about the Raiders? I mean, being a playoff contender. That's what we were discussing. Do you have a different story, maybe a different opinion than Trent may? Could they?
Yeah, I mean, I could see them falling flat and having a top 5 pick again next year. But it depending on how the free agent additions do, because you can't just add a whole bunch of pieces and expect them to work right away like that. But I definitely think they have a chance of competing and maybe finishing about 8-8. But it depends on how the additions go and whether they're able to stay healthy, because obviously there are some health concerns with some of those players.
Another story came out today. There's Josh Freeman thinks he can still start in the NFL as a QB. Do you guys believe that he could still start in the NFL?
I don't think he can. Go ahead, Michael.
I think he can, but I mean, unless he really starts to improve, I don't see him having all that much success moving forward. I mean, I think it was a good spot for him to go with the Giants, sort of prove that he can still be, whether he still has something left and can turn his career around. But right now I don't really see him developing into a starter.
Piggyback on that comment, I don't think he's going to start in the NFL anytime soon. Even if Eli Manning falters like he did last year, throwing around 27 picks, a career high for him, I don't think Tom Coughlin's going to pull Eli Manning. There's no way. And not for Josh Freeman. I don't see it happening. And I mean, honestly, when someone asks him that question, what's he going to say? No, I can't be a starter in the NFL. He's going to say yes, right? But I don't think he's going to be a starter anytime soon.
Right. Now, actually, let's move to a little different segment, but still kind of in the news as far as that's more in the NFL. Do you guys have any, by the way, Trent, do you have any other news, NFL news disregarding any prospects around the league?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest news right now for any NFL fan is going to be the NFL schedule, and the opening game is going to be a rematch.
Let's talk about a couple of the games as we know, one of the opening Monday night game. You have the Giants and the Lions. What do you guys think about that game?
I think it's, going to be a good game, but, I mean, the biggest game is definitely going to be the Packers and the Seahawks, and that's the Thursday night game. Obviously, we have a rematch of the replacement ref game where you had the controversial call at the end where the Seahawks won on a touchdown, which, clearly wasn't a touchdown. It was actually an interception. But, I mean, as far as the Detroit Lions and Giants go, I mean, good luck with that game.
Right. The one that I like is, is to see where Seattle is. So who's Seattle playing that opener?
The Packers. You just said that.
I just
guys
said that.
Talked about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a real challenge because Packers are going to get into, see where they were. They didn't have the best season last year, so I would like to see what Aaron Rodgers still has, and if the defense is still strong, of course, for Seattle. Not every team, could win the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. That's for sure. And everybody will be after Seattle.
Yeah, there are a few division battles in that season opener. Of course, you got the Steelers and the Browns and Pats and Dolphins. But one of the bigger games will definitely be the 49ers at the Cowboys. And being from that area, Trent, near San Francisco, what do you expect for that game?
Oh, man, that's going to be a huge game. I just remember growing up in the 90s, and there was such a huge rivalry between the Cowboys and the 49ers because, they played in so many NFC championship games, and basically the winner of that NFC championship game went on to win the Super Bowl, and the Cowboys did it 3 times, and the Niners did it once. It's going to be a huge game. I cannot wait for that game. I just wish it was in San Francisco so I could go, but that's definitely the highlight for me, besides the Seahawks and the Packers, obviously. Even as, just an NFL fan, that is definitely one of the better games that weekend. The Colts and the Broncos, obviously, is another good one, but the 49ers and Cowboys, that's a game to watch that weekend.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's lots of games to watch within the first week. And the Packers, like in Seattle, that's going to be the first game, correct?
That's the Thursday night game. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the Thursday night. The other game I noticed here, Falcons had a real bad season, as we all know, and it's a matchup. The Saints are going into Atlanta. It's always a good rivalry there to open up a game. That's another thing that we can look at. It kind of says to me is like, is Matt Ryan going to have a good year? Is that going to prove a point, or just Saints stomp all over them, especially when they're playing in Atlanta? So
yeah,
that's a game.
Atlanta definitely plays better at home in the Dome. Obviously the Saints have made a lot of improvements on defense at play with the addition of Rob Ryan as defensive coordinator. And Jerry Isberg will obviously make that secondary even better. So in terms of the Falcons and whether Matt Ryan can bounce back, I think part of it depends on whether he gets that added protection. So that'll depend on whether the Falcons are able to pick up Greg Robinson or Jake Matthews in the draft, or whether they go pass rusher. So that'll have an impact as well.
Yeah, the other game I'm looking at right now is the Sunday night game, the Broncos and the Colts. I would love to see that game. I think that's one of that's the game of the week right there. As far as the AFC goes. It's Manning and Luck, and if Manning has anything against, and I'm saying that Peyton Manning has anything to make up from the Super Bowl loss, that's a game where he can prove it.
Manning versus Luck?
Yep.
I mean, it'll definitely be a matchup, and people will be looking to Peyton to sort of, I guess, quote-unquote, recover from the Super Bowl game, and, that'll definitely be, how people judge him week one, but, I mean, I think that's all people are going to do is how they judge in week 1.
Let's pick up 2 games on week 2 and 3 and 4, and just 2 games we can scoop through real quick. You guys, do you have the whole schedule in front of you, both of you guys?
Yeah, and the Denver Broncos actually play the Seattle Seahawks next year. They play them week 3, so, I mean, if anything, that's going to be the week that Manning will try and get redemption. And it's at Seattle, too, so, you know, they...
Yeah, well, but that was talking about some... Yeah. But let's go to week 2. Week 2, you have a couple of games that are quite interesting right now. This is all before the draft, so we're looking at, we don't know who might start for some of these teams, like the Jaguars. We have no idea who might be their quarterback. So
no, I mean, I think we do. Chad Henne the starter, and is likely to be there for the draft. But you do make a good point about, you know, some of the positions. Obviously, we'll have new starters through the draft. But,
right.
Yeah, taking a look at the week 2 schedule, I mean, there are a lot of good games. Obviously, our teams are fitted there.
Right. The one that gets me is, I know you'll like this too, is how Schaub will do against his ex-teammates in Raiders face the Texans.
Yeah. That should be an intriguing afternoon game. Also, the Chiefs and Broncos, 2 hated division rivals.
The 49ers and Bears, they always play each other hard.
Yeah, that should be a good Sunday night game.
And then the Monday night.
Monday night game is good. You see how the Eagles and Chip Kelly does against the Colts. Moving really quick through the third week, and in the third week we have, let's see, you know, if you have the third, what gets me is you have that big rivalry, RG3 and versus the Eagles. It's always a good game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that'll probably be the biggest game of week 3, just because it's Deshaun Jackson going against his former team. But you know, you got several other intriguing games around the league. That NFC North battle between the Packers and Lions.
And then you have the one that brought up the Broncos and Seattle Seahawks, the Super Bowl, and that's
the Super Bowl rematch,
by the champs. So, you know, they're going to go into the 12th man field and see if Peyton Manning can survive, like you said.
Yeah, that's going to be the matchup of the week for sure. Probably the matchup of the best 3 weeks, and that's the one that people are going to mark on their calendars. That, you know, because it's the Super Bowl matchup, Super Bowl rematch. So, and possibly a Super Bowl, you know, preview again. You know, because both teams have improved so far. So that should be a good game.
Sure. Let's go one more week, and then we'll talk about some other news around the league and around the draft picks as well. We have some great offense meets great defense matchups come week 4. If you look into the Eagles, I think meet San Francisco. So that's going to be a good matchup right there. You have the Chiefs at the Patriots on Monday night game. And you have the Bears at the Packers, which is also another good rival.
Absolutely. And the Saints at the Cowboys, too. That's another really good matchup.
Well, yeah, because you have, former defensive coordinator going against the Cowboys.
Right. Don't have Romo and go for Manziel.
I mean, there is talk about that, so Manziel could be suiting up for the Cowboys. But,
I was watching
the Giants at the Redskins, too. Obviously, a heated division rivalry there. One we can't forget is the Panthers at the Ravens with Steve Smith going against his former team.
Yeah, that would be good too. There's a lot of great games anyway, folks. You guys check out the NFL NFL schedule. Sure, it's on NFL.com, but we'll try to get it up in our website, NFL Draft. insiders.net and Gridiron Grit, so you guys can look at the great matchups we have in the fall for you, and that's going to be great. Now we're going to turn things around and focus a little bit on the NFL draft before we invite our guest comes in, and then we'll go from there.
I know nothing because I'm a woman. You're not a woman. Oh, you bastard.
Anyway, what do you guys think about speaking about Johnny Manziel, is he ready for the NFL? Whatever you think, Trent.
Is he ready for the NFL?
Is he ready to start in the NFL?
I don't think he's the answer to the question is yes. I think it would behoove him to go to a team that already has a starting quarterback. You know, like we just mentioned, the Cowboys. Now that's probably not going to happen because they have the 16th pick in the draft, but I think that would definitely benefit him. But I think he's ready to start if, say, like the Browns drafted him or the Buccaneers took him. You know, the Buccaneers came out and said today that Johnny Manziel is on their short list for draft picks at 7. So I don't think he falls past 7. You know, that might not be true, though. They could just be blowing smoke up our behinds, but who knows. But, yeah, I think he's ready for the NFL.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Trent. I think he could have a little bit of a challenge adapting because obviously there are some things that he's going to need to learn and maybe tone down a little bit. And I'm not just referring to off the field. Some of his pocket movement and the way he sort of takes off on his legs a little too much. So he'll need some good coaching, but in the right place, I think he could thrive. So we'll see, but I mean, he could very well slide down in the first round. But even if he gets down to the Cowboys, I don't think they take him. But I'm just saying that might be a possibility. But as Trent mentioned, the Bucs and Browns are both two possible suitors there.
You know, my think about Johnny Manziel is Johnny Manziel, in some aspects, could be a great quarterback in the NFL. People are picking on his height and stuff like that, and so you got to see what he has to prove. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are now in the league, like Russell Wilson, that didn't have the height coming in, but he did this quarterback. Johnny Manziel strive, and he could start. He has to have the right coaching, and I think every one of these top QBs going into this draft have to have the right coaching for them to strive well in the NFL. They all have the potential to become something. I don't think any of them should. Any of these top 3 or 4 are going to sit and wait, which is not the best idea either, because if you do put them in the front line, they're not going to be ready. But like I can see if they sit back and learn from someone, in some of the teams, they might be very good, you know, and excel in the coming years. Do you guys agree with me?
I agree with you for the most part. I disagree with you when you said that every quarterback or every talent can thrive in the NFL. You know, some players' talent just doesn't translate well to the NFL, and that's just how it is.
I'm saying the top 3 candidates. Let's say like top 4 or 5 candidates.
But even then.
No. Well,
right,
I mean, we're just
discussing.
I'm not predicting anything. Of course, there might be a bust or two,
right.
in this draft for sure. But you got to
go. Unfortunately, for teams, it's not an exact science, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest questions with Manziel would be his work ethic. I saw a video just a couple hours ago. Just spotted it on YouTube of Jamarcus Russell being drafted and how Mel Kiper was just fawning over his potential and everything. And it kind of put things into perspective of, granted it looked like he had quite a bit of potential at the time, but his work ethic was just not there at all. I don't think Manziel has quite that bit of a concern, but definitely a concern with some prospects. And so I would put Manziel in that box of, the work ethic is a little bit of a question mark. So, but definitely all those guys have big potential.
I mean, moving to work ethic, if you guys discuss work ethic, I mean, I could talk about one of the top, draft picks who's probably going to go off the boards in the first 5 picks, and that's Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, he's been being picked on the work ethic. I mean, we have no idea. If your coach says you got bad work ethic, do you think this guy does? I mean, is he going to lag in the NFL? And if he's not going to listen to his coaches, we have no idea.
Yeah. For the first time over the last week, I've managed to kind of flip-flop and see the Texans taking Clowney, because up to this point I had seen them taking one of the top quarterbacks, but I really see them taking Clowney now. But if they pass on him, they'll probably go with Bortles. But I think if there is one place where Clowney could, stay focused and not become a bust, it would probably be in Houston with J.J. Watt, because I think J.J. Watt wouldn't let Clowney slack off, to tell you the truth. But we'll see. There are definitely some questions with Clowney.
I completely
anyway,
agree.
Let me end it. Hello? How are you doing?
Good. How's it going, guys?
Who am I speaking with?
Wade.
Hey, Wade, how you doing?
Hey, Wade. Good.
Anyway, Wade is going to bring our special guest in a few minutes. Anyway, we're discussing the work ethics of prospects in the NFL right now, and we discussed Manziel and Clowney. Do you know of any other prospects that are kind of featured at the top that people are looking more into their work ethic?
Questionable work ethic of top prospects. That's a good one. Trying to think. I know in a few minutes you'll hear Dwayne talk about how good of a work ethic Aaron Donald has. So he doesn't have any problems in that department. So I can't really think of one off the top of my head. Clowney, Manziel, two of the biggest ones. I just heard Mike talking about Clowney. He's definitely got a lot of question marks around him, But we'll have to see it all sort out.
Yeah, where do you guys think? Let me start with Trent. Do you think Clowney is going to go first overall to the Texans, or will he be traded? Will the Texans trade, or who do you think that Clowney will be the first overall pick?
Well, recently I've read about how the Texans want to take a defensive player at number 1, and if they don't end up doing that they will trade down to stack draft pick. But honestly, I think Jadeveon Clowney will be the first pick overall in the 2014 NFL draft. And I recently did a mock draft, and I had the Texans taking Jadeveon Clowney. Like Michael was saying, even though Jadeveon Clowney has a quote unquote questionable work ethic, I don't think J.J. Watt will let that slide. And together, J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, could be two of the best pass rushers in the NFL, hands down. I mean, J.J. Watt already is. But, yeah.
Hey, let me just pause for a little. We have a little sponsor that we got to put out for. Anyway, tired of cooking and need that big meal for your guest at a party, and you're looking ready for a perfect gourmet meal? Your guests could get any big size, small contact Citron catering for a free tasting, and they could set up your party anytime. Anyway, what do you think about Khalil Mack? He's like jumping in the front of the line here. He can move up. maybe Clowney won't be the first pick overall. Maybe Khalil Mack will.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about that. There was a report that came out, I believe, over the weekend or at the start of the week about the Texans GM preferring Khalil Mack over Clowney. Some of that kind of reeks of a smokescreen. I definitely like Khalil Mack, and he definitely doesn't have that question in terms of work ethic, and it's certainly more versatile than Clowney, and might be a better scheme fit than him with the Texans. Clowney is seen as the better overall player, and at the end of the day, I think they're going to prefer him over Mack. But definitely both players have loads of potential.
You can't do things like that.
I'm going to welcome our guest to the show. Just want to welcome our guest to the show. How you guys doing today?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Dwayne.
How's it going, Wade?
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Who's speaking now?
Dwayne Brown.
Dwayne,
Aaron Donald.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing? You getting ready for the draft?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Doing good. You don't mind if I have a couple of my co-hosts are going to ask you a few questions, and we'll go around and then maybe they can talk to you. Your other guys can fill you in, and it'll be a whole big conversation.
That sounds good.
Okay, but I do have one quick question. If you could, where do you, which player would you like to see yourself compared to in the next 5 years?
I'm never the type of player that like to try to compare somebody because I feel like every player plays different. But a caliber player, Hall of Fame player like a Warren Sapp, a player that's considered great. So when I do something, I consider myself trying to work to the beat just to get this status of being great. So.
Super. Hey, Trent, you got a good question for him?
Yeah. Hey, Aaron Donald. This is Trent Davis with SpoonFed Sports and NFL Draft Insiders. I was wondering, do you have any goals in your head that you want to accomplish when you get to the NFL?
They're good and right away. You got to earn the respect from the veterans, the trust from the coaches, and trying to go out there and make a big impact. Play my butt off, make a couple plays, and make a stand and help my team to win. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say, we're speaking to Aaron Donald, folks, top defensive tackle prospect from Pittsburgh. Michael, your question.
Yes, Trent. How's the pre-draft process been with you the last few weeks and talking with teams? What has that experience been like for you?
It's a long process, real long process, but my draft experience so far, it's been going smooth, Did what I had to do during the season, went to the Senior Bowl, played my butt off, went to the Combine, showed what I can do. So the process has been going pretty smooth for me, just right now I'm getting football ready, standing in the weight room, working out, staying in shape. So.
What's
how
your
is your
like in the
trainer over there thinking the same thing? How is he improving? Wait.
I couldn't hear you say that again.
How do you feel has Aaron Donald improved from when you first started with him?
How he's improved? All I can say is.
What does he need to improve on, maybe?
Not too much. Not too much. I mean, we can work on his endurance a little bit, but, considering he's a lineman and the way I train him, I train him more or less like he's a skill guy. So I think that's to his advantage. Because a lot of stuff that I do with him, I'm training him more or less like he's like a boxer or a – hello?
Hey, Mark.
A boxer or a defensive back.
I'm listening to a live
So anyway, guys, you got. I have another question for you.
Yeah, Mark.
We got some background there. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, as a future team leader, Aaron, how would you address some related issues they may come up in the locker room as a team?
You was breaking up. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Say what?
Hey, Aaron.
You was breaking up. I couldn't hear you.
Hey, Aaron, this is Trent. I have a sort of off-the-wall question for you. Have you ever been the recipient of any pranks or pulled any yourself? And if so, like, do you have one that stands out in your mind as really funny?
I'm not a big prankster, so, never did too many crazy pranks. Or really was never pranked at the college level, so.
Do you have any pregame rituals?
For the game, I'm usually just in my own mindset, just getting ready, talking to myself, trying to get myself amped up to get out there and try to make plays. So usually just talking to myself, get myself ready, get my blood going. So.
What kind of music do you like to listen to before games?
I don't listen to no music. I'm just usually focused on what I got to do, telling myself what I need to do when I get out there, and then going out there and doing it.
Did you play any other sports growing up, Aaron, besides football?
Just a football player. That's all I did was play football.
Oh, come on. You got to have a hobby besides football.
I'm a good ping pong player, too.
There you go.
I'm a strong ping pong player. Let's just say that.
Oh, we got to play here, Aaron. We got to play.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I got to see that one day. That would be fun.
Do you play Madden, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm a pretty good player.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
Being a Pittsburgh guy, I used to watch a lot of Casey Hampton, and when early years when made a lot of plays, took two guys, but guys like Warren Sapp, later on Sue, and I started watching a lot of Geno Atkins my junior in college.
So who, in saying that, who's your favorite team in the NFL? Do you have a favorite team?
I don't have a favorite team no more. It was the Steelers growing up. You grew out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are talking about you saying that if you were 2 inches taller, that you would be talked about as the best defensive player in the entire draft. What would you say you're working on to improve heading into the draft, and do you see that as a problem that you're going to have to overcome, or do you think that's overblown?
I don't think it's a problem at all. What I did is already on tape. There's pretty much nothing else to be talked about. When you do what you got to do on the football field, you win every major award. So, what else could they say? I did what I had to do, but I'm just gonna work on my overall game, from stopping and running, rushing, and passing. So, I'm just gonna worry about what I got to do and trying to be successful the best way I know how, and that's trying to get to the status to be considered great and trying to get out there and make plays. So, what everybody else is saying, you can't let it get to you or let it bother you because it'll affect the way you play. So, I'm just worried on what I'm trying to do.
Hey,
Aaron,
do you have any good things to say about your man that you've been training there?
Bro.
Go ahead. This is on me or you, Aaron?
Go ahead, Wayne.
Aaron's one of my favorites. I can admit, Aaron got a will that is, like no other. I've been around a lot of athletes so far, and his will not to be defeated. I mean, I watched it live. I watched him in the high school. I mean, you all don't understand, when he was in high school, he was almost taking handoffs off. So what he's doing now doesn't really surprise me. You know what I mean? And when we first met, I know the stuff I was doing was a little unusual for him. And he used to be like, man, what's going on here? But I think over time he's seen how it paid off in his play. And then when he first went down to Pitt as a freshman, how it paid off. because realistically thinking where Aaron's at, he's in a position where he really doesn't even have to train with me, but we still do. We'll be training tomorrow morning at 8:00. So
there you go.
Hey,
yeah.
Wade, do you have any question for him?
Absolutely. Aaron, Wade Peary, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it. I'm a real big fan of your game, man. Me and Dwayne talk about you all the time, man. And to be honest with you, I was pretty surprised they weren't talking about you as highly as, it really took your Senior Bowl performance was really what helped you take off. To me, I was pretty surprised that your stock wasn't really as I figured it would be that high before the season even started. But the Senior Bowl is what really put you over the top. Who was the most difficult offensive lineman you faced in all your years of football that you just hated to go against? And there's got to be a guy.
I get that question asked every single time, and I get that question asked a whole lot, and I always say I can't just point out one guy. I played against a lot of good competition, but I also faced a lot of double teams, a lot of triple teams, a lot of slap protection. So I never really got too many one-on-ones to get to see how a guy really was, or so I really can't just point out one guy. So
yeah, was there one quarterback that you liked that you love to take down more than the others?
Every quarterback. Anytime you get a sack in defensive lineman, that's like a touchdown for us. So I love to take down any quarterback and every quarterback. So.
Mm-hmm. Who's been the most influential coach in your whole football career? My high school coach, my position coach, Lamar Gibson. We still talk to each other to this day. He helped me to get to the college level. He played at Pitt. He played in the NFL, and just listening to him and him put me in right positions in high school to be successful. Learning the schemes and understanding what he was telling me. And once I started getting a concept of what he was saying, and I started to have great success in high school, and it helped me a lot to get to that next level at the college level. After every other high school, every other college was turning me down, saying,
Brent, you got that question that you wanted to shoot?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Aaron, were you happy with your performance in the Combine?
Oh, yeah, I was really happy. That's something I trained for 7 weeks and got prepared for, and I felt like I went out there and showed what I can do. So I was real happy with it, and I was confident going into the Combine. So
that's awesome.
Got a little bit of a off-the-wall question, but if you could trade places with any celebrity for a day, who would it be and why?
I don't know. I love being in my skin, so I wouldn't want to trade places with no one.
That's right. Hey, I do have a funny question just like that. How about if you could be a superhero? Who would it be?
Superhero? I'll say Superman. Superman, guy that can fly, is strong. So you have to say Superman.
Hey, Aaron, do you have a favorite show on TV right now, or a favorite movie that you like to watch? Something like that.
No, I'm not really. I don't get to watch too much TV now. It's been busy, real busy. But I like to watch a little bit of what's it called? Love in Atlanta, Hip Hop Atlanta, or something like that. On VH1. I watch that too.
I never even heard of those.
Hey, well, what are your plans for draft day? I know you've decided not to go to the draft. What are your plans for draft day?
Just I'm gonna be in Pittsburgh with my family. Actually, we're gonna go to the Savoy. We got a private room at the Savoy, and we're gonna host my draft there with the family. So just be with my family and watch it there. So
how do you plan to spend your first NFL paycheck?
I don't know. We don't want to. We want to keep the money, so we won't get rid of it. But we can be smart with it. So I don't know. Just gonna do what I got to do and trying to save as much money as I can, so it can last.
That's a good plan.
Do you have any ideas for your first big purchase for yourself or family member, Aaron?
I'm not sure. And I'm not a big spender. I'd rather keep the money than lose it than give it away. I got that question asked a couple of times too. I'm not sure what I would buy. The first thing I would buy. So.
And what about I know Dwayne was telling me the Bucks have told you that they're really interested in you. What teams have you really gotten the most interest from? I know Dwayne was telling me the Bears, Cowboys, and the Bucks have all expressed a lot of interest in you. Which teams do you think are the most interested in your skills?
There's been a lot of teams coming out. After you do what you got to do on the football field, you have a solid Senior Bowl, and then you finish it off and you top it off with a great combine running a 4.6, weighing 285, 290. So a lot of teams and Sean interested and been liking me. So a lot of teams. The Rams. I talked to the Rams. I even talked to the Steelers. So a whole lot of teams been showing interest. So.
Yeah, you did great at the combine. You ran faster than a lot of wide receivers and linebackers even did. As a defensive tackle, that's huge.
Some of the running backs.
Yeah, some of the running backs too. I mean, that's amazing, man. You did amazing in the combine.
Appreciate it.
What would you say is your biggest strength to your game?
I feel like I'm a rounded football player. I feel like I can stop the run. I can rush the passer. I can hold a double team and let my linebacker be free. So I feel like I'm considered to be a overall rounded defensive tackle.
Yeah.
You feel you command double team constantly?
Mhm. I can hold a double team. I can hold a 600-pound, 700-pound double team without getting washed off the ball.
Yeah, that's yep. It's all on the tape, man. I believe it. Ask all the offensive lines that he faced.
If your quarterback, Mr. Savage, is on another team, you gonna take him out?
That's my man, but hey, when we on that field, it's competition. If I was playing my brother, I still had the same mindset. I want to go out there and compete and do my best. Once the game over, we're going to give handshakes and hugs, but once we're in battle, we're going to try to go after each other. So.
Have you talked to some of the players, former teammates of yours who are now in the NFL?
Yes. Actually, Jabal Sheard reached out to me, Pinkston, Larry Fitzgerald, Hugh Green, Bill Fralick. So a couple people reached out to me I talked to, so that's just good to know that I got alum that's coming out to me, and if I need to make a phone call, need a question asked, I can call them guys. So.
What kind of things?
What sort of advice?
Go ahead, Trent.
What sort of advice did they give you, Aaron? Just what Michael said.
Just through the whole process, they just told me it's a long process, crazy process. And if I need any questions answered, they give me a call, give them a call, and they answer it for me. Or if I need any advice or anything, they're there for me. So
that's awesome.
What would you say? Is there a specific moment that's been like your favorite moment throughout the draft process?
The whole process has been great to me. It's a one-lifetime experience to be able to go to the Senior Bowl, go to the Combine, get to visit different teams, get to meet new people. So, the whole process so far has been so smooth and been great to me. So, it's been just right now. It's just a long wait. It's getting closer, but it's still a couple weeks away. So I'm just ready to get back into this football mode and pick some pads on again. So.
Are you real anxious and ready to go? For how are you? Are you really getting real anxious about getting selected to a team? Are you getting a little nervous? How do you feel right now?
I'm more anxious just to see what team I go to and what players I'm going to be playing with and what coaches I'm going to be getting coached by. So, just more anxious to see where I go and just anxious to get back into that football mode, being around the team and competing and playing football again. I've been missing it, so.
As far as teams, I mean, Wade was telling us, what types of teams you met with and stuff and possible teams. Would you rather play on a West Coast or an East Coast kind of team, or?
It don't matter to me, as long as I go somewhere and get the opportunity to play the game of football. So.
You've had plenty of questions from scouts and coaches throughout the process. Is there one that jumps out that was like the craziest question you've received throughout the whole process?
Every other interview I had was just football related, but I sat down with the Bengals. As soon as I sat down, they asked me, they told me 5 words to remember. And then we did the interview, we watched film, we talked football. Then at the end of the interview, they asked you what was the 5 words, and I got 3 out of 5. I didn't get 5 out of 3. So I know 3. I remember the 3 I got right. It was yellow, it was baseball, and it was tree. So.
If you could play with any current player, or maybe want to strive on the same team, learn from, who would it be right now?
There's a lot of great players. Allen, Ware, Sue, Geno Atkins. There's so many great veterans out there. I'm just hoping I land with somebody that got great leaders and great veterans that I can learn from and pick from their brains, and hopefully them trying to help me out to trying to get to where I'm trying to be, and that's successful and a great one. So,
Aaron, what are your thoughts on the way football has changed the past few years in terms of, especially in the NFL, with their overprotection of the quarterback and the fact that it is extremely hard to play defense these days? I mean, I know that's got to upset you, all these flags coming out with guys tackling the quarterback.
It was just something they did to trying to help players out come long term. There's so many long-term injuries that a lot of players are finding out they have, and they just trying to not let that happen and trying to do what they can to try to prevent that. So it's a game. As long as it's still some type of physical, it's always going to be physical for a decent offensive lineman. But, it takes it kind of fun out. You can't do the extra little push to the ground on the quarterback, but it is what it is. So.
I would like Vaughn to kind of answer that question in a different way. How do you train somebody in that respect so they don't hurt themselves and they don't hurt others because of those type of penalties that are being affected?
Yeah, Dwayne. I don't know if Vaughn get on the call. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you here? Go ahead, Vaughn. I didn't know you was on. Go ahead, Vaughn.
What did he ask me? I didn't hear the question.
Okay, what I said was basically Wade, I think, asked for the protection of, when let's say if Aaron's going to go in and sack the quarterback, he can only hit him in a certain way. He can't hit a head-to-head helmet. How do you train the players to play like that so they don't get injured themselves and they don't injure the player that they're playing against?
The best way to prevent that is what they're teaching now is trying to everything heads up and not leading with your head down. So basically, how he sacked. If you look at Georgia Tech game, when he sacked the quarterback, it was more or less he ran straight through dude, but his head was up. Like try to tackle the quarterback at his knees or spear him in the head. It was almost like he ran full speed through him, but his head was up, so it wouldn't cause a penalty. So his helmet was nowhere near the quarterback's helmet. It was almost on his shoulder pad. So you always got to teach, that heads up.
Hey, Aaron, what was your favorite moment in college, and was there a favorite play during your time at Pittsburgh?
Well, there's a lot of good moments at Pitt. The 4 years went fast for me. I enjoyed them all, but made a lot of big plays, a lot of fun times I had. But I'll have to say a play like we played Duke. Tackling two people at once. I watched that on film, seeing that, and I was kind of shocked that I did that. So I was amazed.
Do we have a new caller? Can I say your name here? I guess not. All right. Do you have a favorite movie by any chance, Aaron?
Yeah, I love Juice. Juice and Paid in Full. One of my two favorite movies.
Hey, Aaron,
I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I said my two favorite movies is the movie Juice and Paid in Full.
Oh, Beetlejuice.
No, Juice. Juice. It Paid in Full.
Don't worry about me. Trent, you take that.
That's old school. That's in the 90s. Juice.
Yeah, 90s is
Beetlejuice.
At least we're having fun on the show.
You've had a lot of fun moments throughout your college career, but what was your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memories was when I was on a little team. We played a championship game in the Pitt Stadium in Oakland before they knocked it down. We played a championship game there. And we ended up winning the championship. I made the game-winning tackle on the goal line for us to win. So, that's something that always stick with me. Won the MVP and took the championship home in the Little League. So,
have you had any companies contact you about endorsements, Aaron?
My agent's dealing with all them things, so we working on all that. So.
Once he steps up and gets his nice jersey, you're going to keep the same number you had in college? You're going to do you have a favorite number that you would like to wear in the NFL if it's available?
I don't know. I'll keep 97 if it's still there, but a number in the 90s would be good with me. I'm not sure, so.
You guys have any other questions for Aaron?
Hey, I got a question for Dwayne. Dwayne, when did you realize, when you started training Aaron, when was the moment that you're like, this kid could be something special, like really, really good?
Hi.
Introduce Amazon Fire TV.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I use these bands, right? And I tied 200-pound bands together, the ones that you use for the weightlifting, for restriction. So I tie them together in a knot, and we do the falling starts, push-up starts, for working on your acceleration. So Aaron was in his start position, and the guy that was in the other loop was a guy named Drew that was 320 pounds. And when I said go, this never has happened. The 320-pound guy flew off, and Aaron ripped the band. He ripped the band. And these are 200. Out of all the bands that I ever used, he's the only person that ripped. And that's 200 pounds worth of restrictions. And that's when Aaron first came to me. He ripped the band. So every time Aaron uses the bands, I got to make him use two bands when we do the drill. But, like I said, Aaron was always, he was always good. I seen him in camps where he just dominated. So, basically, it's not a surprise to me what he's doing. Even when we train, it's fun. We have fun, even though it's hard work, and it's fun. So, that's it right there.
Yeah, I got another question for you, Aaron. I would say, when was the moment when you decided that you wanted to play in the NFL and you fell in love with the game?
Hello?
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 Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear him?
He was
Mike, I want to repeat the question.
Say that again?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, what was the moment when you fell in love with the game and decided that you wanted to pursue an NFL career?
You know, the first time I picked them players on when I was 5 years old, you know, that's something that I love to do. I had a passion for it, something that I enjoy doing. And I feel like I grew up in a family house. Older brother played football, dad played football. So being around them guys to look up to and then being actually playing the game and growing into it and loving it even more and more, you know. Elementary school, when you got to tell your teacher what you want to do when you grow up, you always tell that teacher you want to be an NFL football player. So just growing up and always saying you wanted to be there and being close to making them dreams come true, it's surreal, man. But all that hard work you put into something is going to pay off. So it's just been a blessing, and I'm just happy, and I'm just ready to continue this career. So.
Trent, do you have a question for him?
Nope, that's it. Thanks for coming on the show, Aaron.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you succeed in the NFL.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, Aaron. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yes. Thank you very much, Aaron. Aaron Donald, we really appreciate you coming on the show and answering all those crazy questions. I'm sure you were confronted with some serious stuff in the combine, and did they get you for any of those kind of questions? That you were any tricky questions?
No, just straightforward questions, you know. So it was football talk, except with the Bengals, they hit me with a trick question with the 5 words to remember. So.
Do you have a Twitter or anything, Aaron? You want to have any shout outs before you leave?
Aaron Donald 97 at Aaron Donald 97. Just my first and last name and my number 97. So.
All right.
Thank
you, Aaron Donald, and thanks Dwayne, and thanks Vaughn for coming on the show today. And we really appreciate all you guys coming on the show, and we really wish luck to Aaron in the upcoming draft in a couple of weeks. And I know he'll be a great player in the NFL. Thank you, Aaron, again, for coming on NFL Draft Insiders.
Appreciate
all right.
it.
All right. See you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, guys, that was a great response from him. I really got a lot of feedback from him, and he's going to be really one of the top prospects, and I could see him really delivering a couple of blows to a few of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, we had a lot of voices on there, but I think that went really well. It's great having him on here.
Let me ask. We're going to move on to our show. But I just wanted to say, sorry if I couldn't get everybody all their questions. Anyway, let's move on. We have about 3 or 4 teams that we would like to talk about today and what type of draft, where they're going to move to the draft. And let's start out with the Detroit Lions. Trent, you have new news coming from Detroit. So what do you have to say on that?
Well, according to Scott Bishop on the NewEraScout.com, the Detroit Lions have discussed trading Ndamukong Suh to move up in the first round of the upcoming 2014 NFL Draft. And, I don't know if that's true or not, just because it's coming from the one source, and I can't verify it. I'm not sure anyone else can, but if that is true, that's interesting. I would be curious as to who they want to move up and pick up in the draft, because obviously they already have the 10th pick. But
Yeah.
Or do you think they would want to get him in Mike? Go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
No, I was going to say, who do you think they would be interested in trading up and getting, Mike? Honestly, I have no clue. I know they need a safety and defensive line, defensive tackle, but do you think they'd be going to get Dave?
I think they would have a realistic shot of getting the top defensive tackle, who we just interviewed, or the top safety, Clinton Dix, or even the top corner, which some say is Justin Gilbert, others say Darqueze Dennard. But from everything that I've heard, and they've also been linked to Anthony Barr out of UCLA, but from everything I've heard that they really like Sammy Watkins. And I've heard that for a while now. And so I think if they're going to move up, they would have to move up to the number 2 or number 3 spot in a trade with St. Louis or Jacksonville to get him. And even then, it's not certain that they would. But if there is any player they're trying to land and move up to get, it would probably be Sammy Watkins.
That's interesting, just because the St. Louis Rams could use a defensive tackle, and same with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And also what happened today was the start of the off-season program for the Detroit Lions, and then Dominican Sue, although it's voluntary, he was a no-show. And Jim Caldwell was interviewed about it after the game, or after the practice, and he wasn't happy about it. Jim Caldwell being a new head coach, they want all the players to be there every day. But yeah, I could definitely see that happening, Michael.
Yeah, I think it would be something if they really traded Dominican Sue. I think that would say a lot about the team and where they're trying to go, and the player himself, because obviously many believe he's the most feared defensive player in the league and kind of one of the more dirty players, but it doesn't seem as though the concerns would be that so significant that they're willing to move on from him. So it's an interesting thing to follow right now.
It is. They also have Nick Foley, though, so they would be losing to Dominican Sue, like you said, one of the top pass rushers in the game, but they would still have Nick Farley. I'm interested in why they would be interested in Sammy Watkins, because they recently gave Golden Tate a pretty big contract. And I know they needed someone to get some pressure off of Megatron for a while now. I'm not the biggest fan of Golden Tate, and maybe they aren't either. But they gave him $35 million. I don't know off the top of my head, but
right. There are no reports on this, but there is some speculation that they may move on from Calvin Johnson within the next couple of years. That's something that would kind of devastate me growing up as a Lions fan, but it's a possibility with his contract situation that they may want to move on from him in the near future, just not being able to afford him. And another possibility is maybe they just want to stock up on the receiver, and they really fallen in love with Sammy Watkins, and so they want to add another playmaker and sort of become like the Green Bay Packers on turbo, like when they had all of their top targets. So really kind of become the most prolific passing attack in the league. So I think that's part of it. And it's also worth mentioning there's been the last couple of days a little bit of buzz linking the Lions to Clowney and Khalil Mack. I don't see them really having a shot at getting Clowney unless they moved up to number 1, and I highly doubt that Houston would be willing to move all the way down to 10. St. Louis might be willing to move down to 10, but they could take a crack at Khalil Mack because Jacksonville and Oakland have obviously been linked to him quite a bit lately. So if they've actually become really like Khalil Mack, they may move up to number 2 to get him.
Yeah, I just don't see the Detroit Lions moving up and taking an offensive player just because where they struggled mostly was on defense. But to your point, if they did draft Sammy Watkins, they would have the quote-unquote like turbo Madden offense the Packers had just last year when Aaron Rodgers was healthy.
You don't think that they can sit at 10 and pick up Mike Evans, or maybe even get a tight end, get Eric Ebron?
Yeah, Eric
Ebron,
Ebron did say. Go ahead.
Trent, let's do Trent first. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Trent.
Ebron, maybe he might fall there. I've seen him going to the Bills in mock drafts before. But Mike Evans, I know after losing Mike Williams, I know the Bucs have had some interest in him, in Evans at 7 if they don't trade up or to get, a Khalil Mack or Jadeveon Clowney, or even a Sammy Watkins. I've seen Evans going at 7. I don't think he'll fall to 10 either. But it's a draft; anything could happen. I could totally be wrong.
Yeah,
I actually see. I think we talked about. I think they need a safety, and Clinton Dix. Out of Alabama. The Lions signed James Idigobo, but is that enough to qualify for their safety position there? I think they need a premier safety, and Clinton Dix can play that role, and that would be a good number 10 pick too.
Yeah, the addition of the guy you just mentioned, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to mention it. But he played for the Ravens. He came in to replace Louis Delmas, who went to the Dolphins. And so they also have Glover Quinn, who's one of the better cover safeties in the NFL right now. So I don't think that's necessarily that they would just go with a safety at 10. I mean, I think it's a possibility, but they're more likely to go with a corner or trade up to get one of the top receivers. Or and you did mention about Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron did say in a recent interview that he thinks he's going to the Lions or Bills. So that's an interesting thing to follow. But I don't see him going there. So the Lions are definitely one of the question marks at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And if they wanted to get a safety, they could get one in the second round in Jimmy Ward or Deion Buchanan, two of the better cover safeties coming out of this year's draft too.
Let's pause
Jimmy
once
Ward.
again. Yeah. Do you with a second round pick for the Lions? Let's say, is there any potential there? You guys been looking into that at all?
Well, like I was just saying, they could go with Jimmy Ward or Deion Buchanan, the two free safeties, one out of NIU and the other one out of Washington State. And if they don't go wide receiver, this is a very deep class as far as wide receivers go. They could take someone like a Dante Moncrief or, I forgot his name. Help me out here,
I think Cody Latner.
Cody Latner.
Could be a possibility.
Jordan Matthews too. That's what I was thinking about. Maybe even there too. If they don't take one, he's got the size and the speed along with Latimer and Moncrief. All three of those guys, have the size and the speed and the hands to take some pressure off of Megatron. But yeah,
it's going to be a great draft to watch either way. Certainly for the Lions because it's opened up. And talking about the Lions, do you see them improving? Michael, as a fan, do you see them improving in the next year?
I definitely think they have the potential. It comes down to the coaching and whether they're able to stop the boneheaded penalties and keep the drives going, because that was one of the main problems is that they had really stupid penalties at really costly times. It ended drives and allowed opposing offenses to continue drives. So that's one of the main things, and whether they're able to stay healthy. But I definitely think they have the potential to be a playoff contender this year.
Hey, Mike, do you think Jim Caldwell's going to make a difference as far as that aspect goes, as far as penalties and coaching goes?
I'm not a big fan of the move to get him, honestly, just based on his history, coaching history. But we'll see. I think some of the moves they've made have been pretty good, but I'm not completely sold at this point.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what all happens to the Lions. Let me just pause for another sponsor here. You're sitting at home today like a couch potato, imagining, how about imagining sitting like a king? View your favorite sports events live, or maybe go to a live concert. Just contact Kingston Tickets today. That's KingstonTickets.com, where you could be treated like a king. Another team we're going to speak about today is the Saints. They did a lot of stuff. They made the biggest splash in free agency and got their safety, actually, Jarius Byrd from the Buffalo Bills. Because they did need, and they also picked up the Champ Bailey, which will also help in the secondary. So they polished up both of their major needs. Where do you guys see the Saints going in the first round?
As far as the
7th pick.
The first round?
Yes, they have the 27th pick.
Right, yeah. I think they'll either go defensive end or cornerback, honestly. I don't think Champ Bailey feels the need. Recently he said that on the Denver Broncos that he was willing to switch to safety and that he probably should have been switched to safety just because of his age. I believe he's 37 years old. I think he's done in the NFL. I think he should have retired. That's just my opinion, though. But Kenny Vaccaro and Jarius Byrd, that's quite a safety tandem there.
Yeah, that's
I actually
for sure.
disagree with you on Champ Bailey. I think he actually will be able to succeed, say, the next couple of years with the Saints. I don't see him playing every snap, but they've got some solid talent in the secondary now. And as far as where they're going to go with the first round, definitely several different options. I think wide receiver is also an option from what I'm hearing. They really like Kenny Stills as the number 2 target now, but Marcus Colston's getting up there in age and not quite the playmaker that he was. So they may look to
they re-signed Robert Meacham too, Mike. So
okay, but from what I'm hearing, though, it's still an option that they may go with a wide receiver in the first round or pick up one in the second. So I think that's definitely an option as well.
Yeah,
Right.
Here are my first. I agree with all of the needs, because that's for sure. They could go 3 ways in the first round, and there's 3 prospects they can go with. As D Ford, the defensive end out of Auburn. I think if the Saints is still available, I see the Saints getting the edge rusher. He's a very good disruptive blitzer, and he'll fit the Rob Ryan defense quite well. Another guy who they may go for, if they go at the cornerback position, they can get Kyle Fuller out of Virginia Tech. He's one of the primary cornerbacks coming out of the draft. He spent, I guess they lost Keenan Lewis in free agency last year, and Jabari Beer went on the injured reserve. I mean, they had all these complications. So, Fuller would deal the right, but the only problem, he did deal with a injury himself. I think he had a sports hernia in his senior, as a senior. So that might not put him as a front runner. As far as a wide receiver, if they do take a wide receiver in the first round, if Brandon Cooks is still there, I see them also, because he does fit that mat. I don't see them getting a huge, big receiver. I see them getting a smaller, fast receiver. That's why actually in my mock for the Saints, I kind of have in the second round them going after the receiver and having Paul Richardson out of Colorado fall to them, because you got to remember that's at the end of the second round. That's not doing a stretch that much.
Yeah, that's a good point. Got a little bit of news right quick. Colin Klein, former Kansas State quarterback, who was in the Heisman conversation at one time, he is actually headed to Canada to play for the Montreal Alouettes, or however you say that. Yeah. He's going to be playing with Chad Johnson, formerly known as Chad Ochocinco.
Yeah, that's a famous team. I think a couple of NFL players got to play with there's two teams, the Montreal Alouettes and the Toronto Argonauts or something like that for the Canadian Football League. A lot of NFL players, don't, because they're two big cities, they don't mind playing for those teams.
That's true, Michael. That's really happening.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Just came from POT.
That's crazy. I just want to mention something just in passing. Yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of Pat Tillman's passing. You know, he played for the Arizona Cardinals in this country back in 2004 or back in 2003 and died 22nd, 2004. You know, he's a hero and a football player, and I just want to Pat Tillman. So,
well, why don't you have a moment of silence? Well, back to the Saints. As far as, so basically we're saying as the Saints, their three main needs are a linebacker, cornerback, and a wide receiver. As far as what they're possibly going to select. And possibly they could, they can use some protection always for Breeze. He's not getting any younger. They can use actually maybe a good backup for Breeze and maybe a future quarterback after Breeze decides to retire maybe in 2 or 3 years. You guys agree with me on that?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, that's a definite possibility.
Yeah, definitely. It could happen. They could go on and get a quarterback in the latter round. Somebody like a Connor Shaw, sort of a Breeze-like quarterback. Currently, he's projected in the 6th or 7th round, and that could definitely happen. Absolutely.
Let's kind of move to another team. How about the Steelers? You want to tell us about the Steelers, Trent?
As far as the draft pick goes, I've heard a multitude of, mocks and players going to them, and we even had Aaron Donald say that the Steelers had contacted him. And I've done mock drafts where I've had Aaron Donald go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think he'd be a great fit for them. But I've also seen them taking wide receivers and cornerbacks. Recently, they said they'd be interested in taking a wide receiver. And I think if Mike Evans falls there, that they'll definitely take Mike Evans. But as we said earlier, I don't think he falls that far. And then I've seen them taking Justin Gilbert or Darqueze Dennard because they also have a need at cornerback. So, anything can happen to it.
On my mock, I do have Darqueze Dennard going to the Steelers myself. I don't see Mike Evans falling that far. But
maybe
there's so many receivers that there'll probably be 5 wide receivers going off in the first round at least. So I'm sure if they're interested in a receiver, they can get Odell Beckham or someone like that, Marquise Lee or something like that.
Maybe they end up trading down too and stacking picks. I think that's totally possible. Maybe they fall in love with the guy later in the first round, and they trade down with a team like the 49ers who have a ton of picks. They have 6 picks in the top 100. The 49ers traded down last year, so it's not out of the question. But trading down to 14, would take some ammunition, and they recently said they're interested in trading Michael James away. And maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers want Michael James and a draft pick. Anything could happen. I think that would be interesting, but we'll see, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and as far as where I think the Steelers are going to go, I think Aaron Donald is a possibility there if he's still on the board. I really don't see any way Mike Evans falls all the way to 15. I think he could be gone at the 4th or 5th spot, to be honest with you. But a cornerback is definitely a possibility. Darqueze Dennard, Justin Gilbert, maybe even Kyle Fuller at Virginia Tech. And wide receiver, they could definitely pursue one of the better receivers like Marquise Lee or Odell Beckham if he's still there. And also safety. So if they really like Ha Clinton Dix, if he falls to 15, or they move up a few spots to get him, or Calvin Pryor out of Louisville. So they have several needs to address, so I don't really see them jumping up, but jumping down is a possibility, and they should be able to find an immediate playmaker in the 15th spot.
You guys feel that with the right moves, if they make the right moves in the draft, the Steelers, could they get back to where they were? Because they didn't have the greatest season last year. Could they get back to playoff mode?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they finished 8-8 last year, tied with the Ravens, and they had the tiebreakers. I think they finished second in that division. But with Ben Roethlisberger, anything's possible. They definitely need a wide receiver and some help on the line and also in the secondary. But if they address those needs and get some quality players out of this year's draft, I think they could definitely contend for that division easily.
Yeah.
Let's discuss one more team. How about the Dallas Cowboys? You guys looking at the Dallas Cowboys at all? The rumor that we said earlier in the show about Manziel even falling to them. Are they intrigued actually on getting Manziel in the first round? Or is that just to swallow up some rumor?
I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't think they'll wind up taking him. They definitely have bigger fish to fry in terms of needs to address. But, if they do fall in love with him and he's there, they'll probably take him, but I don't see it happening. Safety and defensive tackle would probably be their top two targets. They're at the 16th spot.
Yeah, they did sign two safeties, Henry Milton and Terrell McClain, through free agency. But they still need to get younger at that position. Henry Milton, obviously, and Terrell McClain are, in the latter half of their career as well. Obviously their biggest departure is going to be DeMarcus Ware, who they were unable to keep because of salary cap issues.
Right. They're probably going to get somebody to fill in for him because they still have not got that. Maybe
they haven't signed anybody there either.
And then maybe they could do that in the first round. I mean, they do have the 16th pick in the first round. They do need a defensive end, like we just talked about. Connie Early is also a good defensive end who will probably fit in that mix out of Missouri. What do you guys think about that one?
Is it Connie or Coney?
Coney, it's Coney Early.
Coney?
I don't think Coney Early goes that far. I've seen him going in the latter half of the first round and then early second, early to mid-second. So I don't think the Dallas Cowboys jump up and get him that early. But he would be a good fit for the Cowboys. Again, the Cowboys have said they have interest in trading the 49ers for the Michael James at 16 and stacking draft picks. And the 49ers were trade partners with them last year when they moved up to the 18th pick to select safety Eric Reed. So that could be a possibility too. So, I mean, look for that come draft day on May 8th. That should be fun to watch.
I am on vacation because I went to KFC and got to...
Where do you see these guys as far as their needs are? What are their basic needs as far as team needs for the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, we just talked about defensive end and because we have the replacement, but what are their main needs as the draft goes a little bit deeper? It's just mainly on defense. What about their offense? Does Romo have enough targets? Does he have enough protection?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, they should probably beef up their offensive line. I don't think they're going to address that in the round one, but they'll probably look to address that on the second day. So, they have plenty of needs. And on the Coney Eagley thing, I did want to mention there was an interesting interview he did with USA Today, I believe yesterday. He declared himself the best defensive end in the draft.
Coney Eagley compared him. That's awesome. That's awesome. Just to piggyback on sort of what Mike's saying, their needs currently, obviously we talked about defensive line. They lost one of their safeties. They also lost a couple of their guards, and then wide receiver. They still haven't yet to resign Miles Austin. He's still a free agent. But they need someone across from Des Bryant to take some pressure off of him. He had a good year last year, but it definitely could have been better if they had somebody across from him. But those are the Cowboys' needs, in my opinion.
The time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Okay, we're going to move to our next segment, guys. We're going to talk about the top 10 prospects. We're not going to do a mock draft as of yet. We're just going to talk about the top 10, if any changes are going to be made, maybe within the next couple of weeks, or as far as we're going. Obviously we spoke about many of these guys today in our show already, but some of them we haven't. Jadeveon Clowney, is he the number one prospect in everybody's draft board right now?
Yeah, he's number one. He would be number one on my board. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, he is the most talented.
Who's the number two? Not for who's going to be selected number two, but who is on the number two as far as you guys go?
I personally think Khalil Mack would be the number two. Sammy Watkins is moving up on my board pretty quickly, but Khalil Mack for me.
Yeah.
So you would say Khalil Mack and then Sammy Watkins for number three.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Khalil Mack 2, Watkins probably 3.
I'd probably go with Jake
Who
Robinson.
Was your number 4? Or
Greg Robinson, sorry.
Who's your number 4, guys?
I'd probably go with Greg Robinson, number 4. I confuse Jake Matthews and Greg Robinson. I put the two names together. But yeah, Greg Robinson would probably be my number 4 at offensive tackle out of Auburn.
Yeah, he looks like a beast that will be on someone's line for about 8 to 10 years. Actually, all these offensive tackles, Greg Robinson, Jake Matthews, and Taylor Lewan, all are pretty top flight offensive tackles that are probably much better than we've seen in the last few years of top offensive tackles. Do you guys all agree on that?
We haven't seen a slew like this. There's been some good ones, but not the number of offensive tackles like you just stated. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there were 3 offensive tackles taken in the first 4 picks last year, and many believe that the top 3 in this class are better than all of the ones that went last year. So definitely a top class. And it's worth noting that I don't know if you mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, but the Raiders reportedly like Taylor Lewan more than Greg Robinson.
I did not know that. That's very cool. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that today, but you guys got to remember anything that's 2 weeks in advance is just a rumor.
Yeah. Well, I do recall
every team is trying to say this is what I'll pick, but I'm not going to pick. That's like saying, we're going to,
I do recall, though, kind of treating a lot of the draft rumors that were right up to the draft last year, just kind of treating it all like a smokescreen, and then I found out quite a bit of it, not all of it, but some of it was dead on. So particularly with the Raiders liking DJ Hayden, and I remember that coming up just
I didn't hear that at all
for the draft. So
I heard that they like DJ Hayden. I heard that they like him a lot.
2 days before the draft is a little bit different than 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the draft.
Well,
still, but you have to take everything with a grain of salt. It could be true, it could not be true, but you have to take everything into account, and then do your mock drafts based off that, or and take your best guess for better or for worse. Because I mean, that's all we're doing. They're educated guesses, but that's all they really are right now until the draft happens.
Yeah. Since we just passed through 4, 5, and 6 of saying offensive tackles, who is your seventh guy, maybe? Who's your seventh guy that you would be looking at as far as a ranking would go?
Well, I mean, I would have a couple of offensive players before those offensive tackles. I mean, I would have Mike Evans after Greg Robinson probably, and maybe even Eric O'Brien. He's moving up around there. And then and from everything I read about Aaron Donald, too.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think Aaron Donald is definitely one of the most talented prospects. He probably isn't ranked as high just because of needs. Some of those teams in the top 10 don't have really strong needs at defensive tackle, so that may be part of the reason. In addition to, some of the concerns over his size, but definitely a top 10, top 15 prospect there. As far as ranking him on a big board, that's really not something I've paid much attention to. So putting one guy 6th or one guy 7th and finding out where the quarterbacks will go there is a little tough to me because I focus more on the mock drafts and what a teams like particular prospects. But I would probably put Blake Bortles in the top 10 just based on what he has as far as the tools to succeed at the next level, even though he's not quite a finished product. And the same can be said there for Auburn offensive tackle Greg Robinson, who's not as much of a finished product as Jake Matthews. So
exactly. I mean, in the top 10, a lot of teams, they're there for a reason, and because they need something more than likely, unless you're like the Rams and they traded with the Washington Redskins for RG3 2 years prior. But yeah, I agree with Michael.
I mean, well, we're still 15 days away to go until NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell officially puts the Houston Texans on the clock. Of course, they've been on the clock, as far as we know, since the regular season ended with the Super Bowl. But as far as me and myself and my colleagues, Mike and Trent, we're going to do a fake mock right now, just go off the board like we always do. But I'm going to do it like you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So I hope you guys have at least sometimes, because we've got a little extra time. But before we go ahead and do that, I think I did have one subject to get to in regards to as far as who do you think which prospects are moving up the draft boards the most, and which prospects are moving back?
Well, the prospects that are moving back most notably would be Teddy Bridgewater, star quarterback out of Louisville, and maybe Johnny Manziel out of Texas A&M, although it's hard to tell with Manziel because he could go as high as 4th or 5th, but he could slide to the second round, which many expect for Bridgewater. And so what do you think about the rising prospects?
Well, the rising prospects. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Rising prospects that I'm hearing about is like Tom Savage, Pittsburgh quarterback. We talked to Aaron Donald, played on the other end of the Pittsburgh team. His quarterback from college is moving up the draft board. Also, Khalil Mack. Look, he might even be the first pick overall if Jadeveon Clowney is not. But it looks like he's probably going to fall to the Jags, or if someone does a trade to the number 2 pick and like him. But so Khalil Mack is now locked pretty much in that first 5 draft picks, whether it's with the first 5 team right now or a trade. As far as the other people moving up, anybody else been hearing anything?
It seems
Well,
like
yeah,
Derek Carr. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that for a while, Justin Gilbert was clearly the number one cornerback on a lot of everyone's board for the most part. And then, not about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, Michael Darkey Denner and started to move up and replace Gilbert as the top cornerback on some boards. And then, just to mention real quick, one of the prospects is dropping that I've been paying a lot of attention to. You know, for some reason, Jordan Matthews was a late first rounder, and I've seen him drop to the second round in quite a few drafts, even though Mel on ESPN recently going to the Niners in their mock draft, and so did I actually, at 30 in the first round. But what were you? Sorry.
I mean, well, we was. I mean, where do you see? Okay, let's move to our segment that I was going to do anyway, because now we have about 15 minutes left in our show. So let's do the mock like we always do at the end of the show. Let's do a really quick mock. Try to do all 32 teams. Let's start out with Mike. Who do you got the Texans selecting first overall? Write them down so you don't forget, so we can't choose two picks.
Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end, South Carolina.
Okay. And Trent, the Rams, and I'm going to do this. You could do trades, but you got to write it down.
All right, well, the Rams have said they wanted to stay at 2. Now, whether or not that's smoke screen or not, obviously we don't know, so they can get a better pick. But let's just say the Rams don't trade out number 2. I think they take, Jake Matthews off at the tackle out of Texas A&M just because, as Mike stated, he's been moving up on some boards. And so I think they take Matthews right there at number 2, assuming they don't trade down.
Well, I hate to tell myself, but I guess Khalil Mack will go to the Jaguars if that's the status right now, unless they're falling in love with somebody else that we don't know of. But I'll put Mack right now with the Jags as the third pick overall. Mike, what do you have the Browns selecting?
Sammy Watkins.
So I'm going to give the Raider hater over there across the bay, excuse me. Where do you think the Raiders go with the 5th pick overall? If you got to remember, look who's gone. You have Mack, Watkins, and Clowney gone. You do have a couple of the guys still in there. You have a quarterback. They may look at a quarterback there. Who do you think the Raiders might take?
I'm gonna go kind of, away from against the grain here, and I'm gonna say they take Eric Ebron, the tight end out of North Carolina, or another weapon.
Whoa! Remember they have 3 tight ends on their roster and 2 starters.
Yeah, but no one like Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron could be the next
Michael Rivera.
Michael
Rivera.
I would disagree with but I'm gonna go with Eric Ebron.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to Atlanta. Atlanta, right here. If Robinson sneaks up to them, Robinson's their pick right there. That's an easy pick. The Falcons go with Mike. You got Tampa Bay Bucks there. What do you think they go with?
Even though I think he's probably going to be off the board, with him still there, I'm going to have to say Mike Evans, wide receiver out of A&M.
Yeah, that's what I thought Trent would stay. So that's why I was kind of surprised there. But anyway, moving on to Minnesota's pick. The Vikings are 8th on the board. Who do you think these guys they have?
We got to take. I've heard they're going to go quarterback and quarterback only right here. So, it's going to be between Blake Bortles and Johnny Manziel, in my opinion. And I think Blake Bortles fits their scheme and offense a little better than Johnny Manziel would. So I'm going to go Blake Bortles. out of Central Florida.
Now you leave me with the Bills. And the Bills, this is struggling because you took Eric Ebron away from me. And now I got to go fixing my books. And
they need safety
really
too, though.
See who else what else.
Well, there's an offensive tackle out of Michigan that's still there.
I'm just teasing, Mike. I mean, they do need a guard more than they need a tackle, but I do see probably Taylor Lewan, if he's still available here. We'll put that X right there. Mike, how about you fill me in on what the Lions going to pick?
I'd say by default, with the way they are at 10, not moving up, I guess they'll go with Anthony Barr out of UCLA.
Oh, I like that pick. Well, that's our top 10 for the. That's our top 10. We have Clowney going to the Texans. Jake Matthews to the Rams. Khalil Mack to the Jaguars. Sammy Watkins to the Browns. Eric Ebron to the Raiders, which is a real surprise. Robinson to the Falcons. Evans to the Bucks. Bortles to the
Vikings.
And Bills, someone distracted me. Bills to the Taylor Lewan, and Anthony Barr to the Lions. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans. Who do you have going to Titans?
Who are you asking?
You, Trent.
Well, since he just took Anthony Barr, I was going to have him take Anthony Barr because outside linebacker is, quote-unquote, their biggest need. Jake Locker's in a prove-it season, quote-unquote, I guess, prove-it season for the Tennessee Titans. And if Johnny Manziel falls to the Titans, I know they need quarterback after they lost Altron Werner, but I could see them maybe even taking a shot on Manziel at 11.
So that's your pick?
That's my pick, yeah, Johnny Manziel.
And are you awake in the draft? you know I'm playing with you. You know I'm playing. They do have still Jake Locker. They're going to give him another chance.
Right. I just said that he's in a prove-it season. But like I said earlier, that I think Johnny Manziel would benefit from sitting behind the quarterback for a year. And if he got to sit behind Locker, even if it was for the first 6-8 games, if Locker sort of faltered at any point during the season, do they stick in Manziel at quarterback? I think it could totally happen, but unlikely because I don't think he'll fall that far. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the Bucks like him at 7.
Well, I mean, let me go to the Giants at 12. I see they got Clinton Dix. Why not? He's available. All the top 3 offensive tackles are going to be taken. They can use some secondary help. I could see them picking up Clinton Dix if this kind of outcome came at 12 to the Giants.
Well, you just stole my pick there, Oren.
Well, that's the whole idea. This is like you're a real GM.
Yeah, I was just messing with you. I guess at 13, the Rams will take Calvin Pryor out of Louisville.
Okay, and going to give the Bears pick to Trent. Remember, our friend is still available.
That's an easy one, yeah, Aaron Donald. They lost Henry Milton. He's one of their biggest, their former franchise defensive tackle, Henry Milton. He went to the Cowboys, and Aaron Donald could be that for them for the next 10 years. So, yeah, I've had the Bears selecting Aaron Donald, defensive tackle.
Okay, and then the Steelers also can use a lot of different picks. I talked about secondary and wide receiver. I could see if this kind of outcome came up, I would think that they could go with a Brandon Cooks right here.
Whoa!
Yeah, I would have said Justin Gilbert or Darqueze Dennard.
Right. Now I really like Brandon Cooks, but I wouldn't expect him there, but okay.
I just wanted to, come on, everybody else is pulling some triggers here, so I wanted to get one wide out here in the draft. So moving on, Mike, you have the Cowboys pick.
Yeah. Now disappointed with their prospects gone. Guess they'll go with Timmy Jernigan out of Florida State.
Wow. All right. And leading up to the Ravens, Trent, you have the Ravens.
They have a couple of needs here. They need to fill that James blah 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 safety spot that they lost, and then they also need to fill a right tackle because they lost Michael Orr. So I'm gonna have them taking Zach Martin here, the offensive tackle.
No arguments there.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick for them. I actually have them on my last draft that I did. And then the Jets, moving to me, New York Jets. I see Marquise Lee. I mean, he's been there on many draft boards, and he hasn't really changed his position there. I still see if Eric Ebron is gone, I should just say they're going to probably take him as well. And Mike, your pick, the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, they're going to go with Cyrus Kouinjio, if that's how you say his name. They supposedly have a real strong interest in him and actually prefer him over Zach Martin, who is already off the board. So they address that offensive tackle need right way at the 19th spot.
I've heard that too, Michael.
Cardinals need a couple of secondary improvements, but let's see where you go.
Well, I've also heard that they're going to take a quarterback with the first or second pick, and with Blake Bortles still available right here.
Blake Bortles is gone.
No, he went to the Vikes.
Bortles and Manziel are gone.
That's right. And you took Calvin Pryor.
Yeah.
You know what? I see them taking the second best, or the third best, I would say, cover safety here than Jimmy Ward out of NIU. I read today that Tyrann Mathieu might miss the first game of the season too, but we'll see. So Jimmy Ward, safety, pretty sticky out of that.
Then moving to the Green Bay Packers, I select Ryan Chaser, linebacker out of Ohio State. And then the Eagles pick goes to Mike.
Odell Beckham out of LSU.
I like that pick, since Cooks is gone by Oren. And then the Chiefs pick, back to you, Trent.
Yeah, I read their biggest need is wide receiver, so I'm going to have them take Kelvin Benjamin out of Florida State, even though he's recently been falling on some draft boards. I read the Chiefs like him to play alongside Alex Smith, so I'm going to have the Chiefs take Kelvin Beckham out of Florida State.
I'm surprised nobody traded anybody, but anyway. I did say you could do trades. Cincinnati Bengals, coming back to me, they need some secondary help too. I think Bradley Roby, since he's played in that state, from Ohio State, I think Bradley Roby is a good pick for the Cincinnati Bengals at cornerback coming out of Ohio.
Going with another Buckeye, eh? Back-to-back there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, with the Chargers.
Mike, do a San Diego State Charger one for us. Number 25th pick overall.
Yeah, I have them taking Kyle Fuller out of Virginia Tech.
That's exactly who I have on my draft. And the fun one for you, Mr. Trent, the trade that really the Indianapolis Colts pick, but another pick from the Browns. The Browns did select their wide receiver earlier in our draft, Mr. Sammy Watkins. Do they go with a quarterback? Let's hear it from Trent.
I think they trade down in the second round right here.
They don't get a quarterback yet, you're saying?
No.
So
I think they trade down and stack some more picks and
Well,
maybe take a quarterback in the second round.
Do you know the Browns have the most picks, some of the most picks of in the draft?
I'm going to say they trade with the 49ers have the most picks in the draft. But I'm going to say they trade with the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals take Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback.
Oh,
okay.
So you're switching that pick that you had that we had earlier with the Cardinals taking Jimmy Ward?
No. I'm just saying the Browns trade with the Cardinals, and the Cardinals move up back into the first round, and the Cardinals take quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. So they take Jimmy Ward and Teddy Bridgewater at 20 and 26.
Cardinals pick is like the 20th pick in the second round. It's like it's almost like 50th pick overall. You aware of that?
I am.
So they would have they would have to move a lot, give a lot to do that.
Yeah, it's possible though.
Yeah, I never said it wasn't possible.
Maybe they give a first rounder from
they would
next year,
be there.
and they give a second rounder from the year after that too, a conditional
Either
second
way,
round
you're
pick from the
saying
year after.
Bridgewater's coming off the board at 26, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I got New Orleans Saints, D. Ford, defensive end out of Auburn, and I think we talked about that actually earlier in the show with Kyle Fuller already gone. Let's go ahead. And a couple of the other needs that they may need, like a wide receiver, the top ones are not there anymore. So I do see them going after D. Ford if that's the thing. Carolina Panthers to Mike here.
Yeah, Morgan Moses, offensive tackle out of Virginia.
Okay, well, let's Trent, go ahead. The next pick to you, which is the Patriots. And
I've heard since the end of regular football season that they like Jason Morrow, the tight end. And tight end is definitely a big need for them, seeing how they just 2 years ago they ran the most 2 tight end sets in the NFL. So I'm gonna say Jason Morrow, tight end.
Jason Morrow. Okay, I'm gonna let you do this other one because you're the big 49er fan. If the 49ers can't get any of these top 5 wide receivers, which wide receiver do you have, or do they go with a wide receiver 30?
Well, if Jason Barrett's still on the board, I think they take Jason Barrett here, the cornerback. So that's what I would say they take if Jason Barrett's still there. I don't see that happening.
Well, the funny thing is you have Darqueze Dennard still on our board.
Darqueze Dennard still there? Oh, well,
Yep.
Then I would go with Darqueze Dennard. That's not going to happen. But
yeah, but you see how it is being a GM. Anyway, last 2 picks, Denver Broncos, Seattle. Mike, let's do those real quick.
Okay, which one you want?
You do the Broncos, I'll do the Seahawks.
Okay. Broncos are like one of the only few teams I don't know their main needs after free agency because they did so much.
Well, I can
cornerback, linebacker.
I can give you their needs really quick. Yes, they did a lot in free agency, and that's true. They got Akeem Talib. Don't forget. They do need a guard and a defensive lineman.
Okay, yeah, they get the Sua Philo guy out of UCLA. Xavier Sua Philo. That's what he said.
Good pick. Final pick of the first round of our little radio show here. I think Louis Nix goes to Seattle Seahawks, goes to the champs, and he fits with that defense right there. defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're going to do our last 2 minutes of segment. Mike, you got 15 words to say. Give me your short thing about you and about the show.
15 words? All right.
Giving you 15 seconds, I mean.
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter at _Michael Gartman. That's GARTMAN. Like us on Facebook at Gridiron Grit. And follow us for continuous content at gridirongrit.com. And appreciate having Aaron Donald on the show.
Trent, tell me about your little new site that you got going for us.
Yeah, you can go to spoonfedsports.com for all your NFL and MLB needs. You can follow me on Twitter at spoonfedsports. You can also follow us at NFLDraftInsiders.net. And look for the 49ers to beat up on the Raiders in Week 14 at Oakland Coliseum.
Ooh. Anyway, this is Oren Shearer, your host for this evening show. Thank you all for joining us. You get to me on Twitter at NFL Oren Time. That's NFL Oren Time. And I look forward to you discussing any issues, anything about the draft. You look us up on NFL Draft Insiders on Facebook, and definitely go to our site, NFLDraftInsiders.net, and we'll be glad to join us. Next week, we also have another special guest with us from Fort Valley State. He's a strong safety, D-Ron Fuhrer. And I'm sorry about my excitement here. And we'd really like to thank Aaron Donald coming on the show, and we wish him a very good luck on draft day. And thank you, Mike and Trent. And we'll talk to you everybody later. Thank you.